Alright, I'm going to break down, this movie is breaking down three things. 3 types of nonfiction books. 1, biography. Woohoo! Biography. That sounds like calligraphy. Biography. Autobiography. And memoir. And I have an example of each. Just for like if people want to peruse, go to the library, check something. I don't know. Just I have an example of each. So these are the 3 nonfiction. They are all nonfiction books, and they are all about people, real living people. So nonfiction, real person. So let's start with biography. What the heck is a biography? Most people know what a biography is, and most people get it right. So it's about someone. The subject of a biography, so in this case a person, of a biography is called I spell it biography. Oh, that kind of crossed it out. Sorry. Biography with 2 E's. I spell it with 2 E's. Some people spell it with an I-E. Some people spell it with a Y. Anyway, the point is, if just speaking it, it sounds the same. A biography and a biography. So it's a nonfiction book about a person. Now, that sounds simple enough. How is that different than the other stuff? Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's break it down further. There are 2 main types of biography. The first, I'm going to differentiate this. So there are 2 main types of biography. The first one is about a living person. So this would be like if for this, I'm getting ahead of myself again, is at the time the contract is made or writing is starting. At time, this is really small, writing starts, contract is made. Because the part, I'll compare it with the other one, which is about a dead person. A person no longer alive. So contractually, there's some differences. I'm going to go through. So about a living person, what would be an example of that? An example of a biography about a living person would be if I were to write a biography about Lydia Jacoby. Pick me. She is a 17-year-old swimmer from Alaska, and she's currently alive. And so if I were to write a biography about her, she's currently alive. So as long as I got the contract and or started writing, well, not and or, this is a very contracted field of writing. So I'm gonna put a contract is made. I don't know if, yeah. So contractually, from a writer's perspective, I guess like signing a contract is technically writing. But like it'd be good to just like think through myself, like maybe write something on a piece of paper, just like starting writing today or something like that. So there's kind of 2 ways to think about it, but contractually, kind of about a living person. When the biography is started, I think from a biographer's perspective, the scary thing would be losing somebody. So like somebody dies from natural, unnatural, whatever causes. And that would be difficult. I think that's kind of the biggest fear as a biographer. I think in approaching writing, so like, no matter how one feels like about the person they're writing a biography about. I think the person, if somebody does not want to see the subject of the biography alive, they in my opinion, they shouldn't write the biography in the first place. So for me personally, in my writing, there's a bit of a protective aspect to it, and the dynamic of, well, I want my person to be healthy and happy and alive and enjoying life, but alive, like, kind of thing. So that's just my perspective, though. Some people might not feel the same way. Or they might sign on to someone who has a terminal illness, and so they're not, they don't know if the person's gonna be alive when the book is finished or something like that. What experience, so I said that might be a biggest fear, is getting somebody and they die accidentally or something, or they commit suicide. I have, so kind of the community I've been writing a lot about for like biography articles as opposed to books are swimmers and kind of the aquatics field generally. I have two relevant experiences. One of my friends, she committed suicide with an overdose. She was on our high school swim team. She was one of the people, we got to have 3 captains, swimmers. I was one of them. I ended up being one of them. She was somebody I was going to vote for, and then she committed suicide. And so I didn't get a vote for her, but I have lived through that, knowing someone, having a friend who was alive and then is no longer alive. So I do know, in a swimming context, on a swim team context. And then the other aquatics related experiences, one of the people I worked with as a lifeguard, he was out with a couple of his friends, and a car ran a red light and he was speeding, and if he had been going slower, he would have been able to stop the motorcycle, but he wasn't going slower. He didn't follow the speed limit. So for people who are like, speeding is okay, no, he was deemed at fault for killing himself and somebody else because he was speeding and hit a car that ran a red light. And so he hit this car, the motorcycle spun out, hit the motorcycle of his friend he was riding with, and both died. And that was like 2018 or something like that. I think it was 2018. There were 3 people. They were both, so I worked with him in aquatics, and he was same high school class as me. And in that one year, we had 3 people die kind of gruesome deaths from my high school class of 2010. It was a somber year. It was a really kind of weird year. So I've had also death in multiplicity kind of So I would say, what am I saying? Living and interacting with people and then having them no longer be there, I am not, that's something I've lived through. So it's not a foreign concept to me. And then about a person who is no longer alive. So that's one type, kind of the fear with that one. The other one is about a person no longer alive. So this is an example. It's entitled The Lost Founding Father, John Quincy Adams and the Transformation of American Politics by William J. Cooper. So this is a political book. If we're going back, like I learned, the founding fathers aren't actually politicians, technically. They're the people who made the settlements. And I think the symbolic and literal, kind of culturally accepted and oddly enough educationally accepted and taught founding fathers, quote unquote, were men and women who came over on the Mayflower in 1620 to 1621. It's a voyage. I am actually 15th generation descendant, bloodline descendant, and I've even gone through the documentation to prove that, and I have been accepted and am awaiting my certificate of acceptance into the General Society of Mayflower Descendants, because I had family who came over on the Mayflower over 400 years ago, yes. So that's an example. These are, it's an interesting, a different approach, right? There's a bit of closure. It's an easier book to write in sense of closure. It gives, like, the person's dead, so you know where to end the book, because a biography is about somebody, so it shouldn't be extending beyond the person, that kind of thing. You could make a different book about the legacy of somebody, but that's not technically a biography. It's just nonfiction. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, especially with political figures, people make it about politics. Like, it's great that people talk about founding fathers and the, like, Revolutionary War and stuff, but the reality is people came to America over a century before that and started founding the United States of America as it exists over a century earlier. So, like, it's kind of a political slant on reality, not necessarily consistent with reality, to call, like, the first presidents the founding fathers, because they weren't, and a lot of people actually arrived later. But that's kind of a perk of deceased people that living people don't really get. Like, if you're from the biographer perspective, people kind of get more liberty on how to write a book because the person's not alive. That doesn't mean it's a good thing. I would prefer the living person angle, and that's what I do because I'm working on documenting my family tree. And like, these books are great, but my family arrived in America over 100 years before, and that's just the people who came over on the Mayflower, over 100 years before some of these people. So if I want to learn about American history, I'm better off learning about my family than some of these people. So that's kind of why not. I am actively seeking out my own family history. So this one kind of is not, I'm not saying it wouldn't ever be interested in, for me, it's just not right now. And then what are two differences? So big potential differences are the potential for field work. So when somebody is no longer alive, it's a lot of museums and archives and that kind of thing is field work. Nothing wrong with that. When it's a living person, depending on how open or friendly or how in-depth the subject of the biography, so the biography, EE, how much they want the writer to know about them. This could be like or a biographer literally follows somebody for a year. Like, or they do periodic visits to a place to get an idea of what daily life is like. That kind of stuff. So there's, writing about a living person, there's potential. It doesn't mean the person gets that, but they get the perks of when a person is dead as well as kind of a living person. And then the other big thing is if somebody's alive, you can talk to them. Not necessarily the case when somebody's dead. So those are kind of the two big things. This video is going to be longer than I thought it would be. This might be a good segmenting place if it's as long as I think it might be. I should get like a stopwatch so I can time myself. Because I film it so I can't actually see the time as it's filming. I don't see the screen on my phone as I film this. So I don't know where I'm at time-wise as I film these. So I should get a stopwatch or something. All right, the next one